This episode of The Lowside brought to you by Full Throttle Energy Drink. Events are always fun and a great way to get people involved or more involved in motorcycling, but individuals can have a big influence as well. One of the people we find most interesting is Chris Wiggins. He's a hooligan flat track racer. He's been an engineer for Vance Hines. He's worked for Saddlemen. Now he works for an aerospace company and runs Field Initiative knives out of his home here. So we're at his house. We're gonna head inside and check out his knife shop. We're gonna head over to his work, get a tour of their facilities and see what he does there. Then head out to Blackmore Ranch, and under his tutelage, I'm gonna spin some laps on the oval out there. So first things first, let's head inside, check out his knife shop and see what he's making there.
This is the shop. My shop is this big.
What got you started in knives?
Like just being a machinist and stuff anyway, and being around bikes, like I love the metal and the fabrication and the craftsmanship. One day I was like, you know what? I work with metal all the time and I like knives, like I'm just gonna try and make some. I do what's called stock removal. So like the guys that hammer stuff out, like they are super talented and I have a lot of respect for that, but there's not a dude that forges in the world that can forge a piece of steel this good. That's just how it is. It makes sense for a lot of people to just do stock removal. Like kind of with anything really, I wanted to like push myself and get better at it and just like make more knives and like more designs and like push that. So a lot of my big sellers are these things, and it's called a Picot Grip. So it's a reverse grip and it's like more of a fighting knife. So this to me is like one of my main productions. So I call it a propaganda because I like punk rock names.
Yeah.
So I'll do like this handle with like a tanto point or a drop point or this like kind of buoy style point. And to me, this is just like a regular EDC you can use for anything style knife.
Yeah.
This, a friend of mine who actually I met through the motorcycle community, he's a retired Army sniper. So he helped me design it.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's called the long one's called the Bravo 4 and the short one's called the Bravo 4 Rooster because the Army sniper is a B4. So that stuff's cool and I've like taken these designs and like kind of honed them a little bit and made them into like a semi-production type deal. The fun of it is drawing something different and grinding something different and not making every knife the same.
And where do you cut your blanks?
I have a really sketchy 6-inch grinder. I need to put a new wheel on it. So it's very high tech and fancy. Takes up.
So that's how you're cutting pieces like this. You draw it on with a Sharpie and you'll cut it with the 4-inch grinder?
Yep. I mean, one day.
Obviously it translates pretty well. It's pretty tight.
That one cheats, that one's water jet. I was gonna get to that in a minute. So a lot of my knives are black and simple. So you see a little bit of the grind and it's meant to be more like utilitarian and less like frilly and fancy. Right. And it just depends what people want, you know? Like, I respect anyone that's gonna carry a knife around and like, you use it all the time. Like I can't tell you how often I get my knife out to do shit.
Absolutely. That was a rad look inside Wiggins' garage, inside the Field Initiative knife shop. Watched him grind some blades. Now we're gonna head over to his work at
ESM Aerospace in Burbank.
Check out the machine shop there, see what he does, and then take his race bike out to Blackmore Ranch. Watch him spin some laps on the oval, and under his tutelage, try some myself and see how it all goes.
Sure to go well.
Yeah.
My day job is called ESM Aerospace, and it's an aerospace company in Burbank, California, and we do a few different aerospace jobs and parts. Our CNC department is 5 machines total. We have these 3 Haas mills, we have a little Haas lathe, and then we have a couple old Herco mills that are about 20 years old, maybe a little bit more. So I write programs, I design fixturing, I do setups, and because it's a 10-person shop, I also run parts sometimes. You know, and I always tell people, it's like, when they ask what I do, I'm a machinist, and they're like, well, what is that? And I'm like, pretty well everything around you, some way, some way, shape, or form has started probably on a CNC machine like this. Like, you know, the piece of plastic for the mics that we're talking in, plastic's in an injection mold. That mold was made in a CNC machine. So it's like all day, you know, I'm like looking at parts and measuring and drawing and numbers and figuring out what we need, and just like prints and stuff everywhere. So it's fun. And notes. So I made custom Speed Merchant notes, and they're all neon, so you can see his desk littered with them too. Where I'm like, hey, we need to order this, we need to order Here's the notes.
Speed Merchant notes.
So he's got like neon green notes all over his desk. Yeah, it starts off as a blank. It gets drilled over here and then machined over here. Yep. So every cycle, we get one complete part out. So it machines both sides of it in every cycle. But I basically have to go through and say, okay, I have a solid block of material. What do I have to get rid of to make the part we need to make, right? And it leaves the part on the screen, and it's like, hey, this is where your tool's gonna go, you know, that to make sure that what I want to see is right. And all this gets cut away, so it's just this thin frame.
And most of what you guys are working on is aluminum?
For the most part, we do a lot of aluminum. We're doing a little bit of steel, and being aerospace, once in a while we'll get some other stuff.
Does it sort of change the way that you think about making motorcycle parts and the way that you think about the way your bike functions?
It's kind of a mixture, you know? Sometimes it's like, I don't want to do it that way because that's how I would do it all the time. And sometimes it's like, I have that access and that ability, so I'm going to do it that way because I can. But I've done a lot of parts on Born Free bikes and friends that are builders and stuff too, where I've been able to stay late and make parts and do that kind of thing. And that's always been fun and enjoyable to like be a part of some of those projects. Yeah. And you know, for small builders to get like a cool CNC'd part that otherwise they wouldn't be able to do. Right. Like the difference between like automotive or like performance motorcycle or performance automotive and aerospace is like, if your car shuts off on the freeway, you pull over, but if the plane shuts off in air, it crashes. Right. So everything
you have
is
to have
like
a lot of fail-safes.
double and triple checked, and just over and over and over with all kinds of different checking and rechecking. And but yeah, that's my day job. I don't know. I think that's pretty exciting.
Cool. It's very exciting. We're out here at Blackmore Ranch, a private facility with a flat track oval on the land that a lot of professional racers and independent racers use to train during the off season. Jeff Blackmore, who owns the ranch, has been nice enough to let us come out and spin some laps on his oval. We're gonna head out there, I'm gonna watch Wiggins do his thing and then throw my leg over his bike and see how it all goes. So wish us luck, we're gonna go try it out. What was hooligan racing like when you started out?
We were going to like Harley nights at Costa Mesa, and then some of us decided that taking our Dynas and stuff out wasn't good enough, and Sportsters were faster and cheaper. And then we decided, let's make street trackers. But let's actually ride them at the track. That was like the big, I think, like turning point. I'm like, well, it's not a street tracker unless you track it too. Sean from SMCO was, hey dude, this is fun, I want to do it more. So I was like, dude, let's just go practice. Like, let's just go down to Paris, spin some laps, have a good time, and not worry about racing, and then we'll find some more races. People started seeing it and want to do it and getting into it, and now it's turned into whatever it's turned into.
Yeah. And it seems like most of the privateers, most independent racers are on Sportsters.
Yeah.
What makes the Sportster an ideal bike for this sort of racing?
I think to start, it's cost. Especially when we started, you know, you could go pick up an old solid mount Sportster, which is like 89 to 2003 for $3,000. There's a lot of like aftermarket parts for them. They're pretty bulletproof bikes. And you know, for the people that are into Harleys, like they're just fun.
Talk to me a little bit about how you've modified your bike over the years and how it's become a better race bike.
All right, the big things I think I've done, it has R6 front suspension, that has some tall rear shocks, 19-inch wheels, and then it's like a lot of small stuff. Like that one has an SNS 1250 kit, a Mikuni carb, and an SNS 202 exhaust. I run these Rox risers. They're just bar risers that come up at about 1 inch, but you can move them forward or backward and stuff like that. And honestly, it's the cheapest way to get your bars in a good position. I'm also converted to 7/8 bars, so I run dirt bike bars, a dirt bike throttle, a dirt bike clutch, and Barnett's makes me custom cables. I still run this lowbrow Tsunami fender, and then Saddlemen's made us some cool seats. People are like, oh, I gotta do this to my bike and I gotta do that. And I'm like, you can just go ride your bike and that will make you fast enough.
What advice would you give to someone about to go and spin their first laps out on the flat track?
Just take some slow laps, take it easy, especially when you're first going out. It's not a race to win, it's a race to survive. Like these bikes are heavy and they will throw you far and they will hurt you real quick, but they're also kind of slow moving and slow reacting, which is kind of a cool thing too. You really can't hurt it, so.
Yeah. Well,
try not to hurt yourself, you know?
All right, rad, man. Let's try it.
Sweet, sounds good.
Yay. I am nervous.
Give first a try and see how it feels.
Okay.
It might be too low and it might feel good right now. I'm gonna try to keep that outside elbow up.
Okay. All right, we just got off the track, watched the man do his thing, tried my hand at it. It is way harder than I was expecting, man. It's physically demanding as hell.
It really is. The bike's heavy, and when you start sliding both ends, you really kind of have to hold it up with your legs.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, started out, I felt pretty spastic, felt super slow. I felt like I was pretty slow the whole time, but as I was, starting to exit the corners towards the end, smoother drifts out, you know, smoother slides coming in, felt like I had a better arch in and out of the turns.
It was cool because you could definitely see in like the short time you were on it, like a solid improvement. As a group, the core guys when we started, so slow.
Yeah.
And it's like funny because now people come in that are fast and we're hanging with them and just riding it and getting used to it.
Yeah, do you think that that's had an effect on new people entering the sport? Like when you entered, amateurs were slow.
Yeah.
And now when we look at heavy bikes and when you look at the run what you brung class and heavy bike and hooligan class, they're fast as hell.
Yeah, I think it's, to a point I think it's hindered it a little bit, but I also think there's a lot of people coming out that they don't care. They want to do it anyway. I hope, especially with the hooligan stuff, that don't be scared, just come out and ride, and if you get beat, you get beat, you come back and you get better, and you're probably faster than most of us were when we started. It wasn't meant to be anything except having fun on your motorcycle. So everyone's kind of helping each other out, and to me that really helps bring people in and get them to stay, because like new people will show up and not know anyone, and they'll come over and it's like, hey, come on, just like be part of this. Like we're glad you're here. We really try to keep that at as many events as we can and keep that thing going, because we feel like that's a lot that really made it great for so many people.
All right, if you want to try your hand at flat track racing, it's not terribly hard to break into. About $5,000 could build you a pretty awesome bike. You could get competitive in the classes. So check out your local races, look for run what you brung or slow classes, and get out there. Maybe you'll see me out there on the track. So thanks to Chris Wiggins for a little bit of guidance and showing us around his work and his shop. And if you like what we're doing on the Lowside, like, follow, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode.